Hi, my name is Rainey Hutman. I am the program director at Great Basin College for our medical imaging programs. And we've put together a quick little Trajecsys tutorial for all the technologists that are going to be out in the field working with our students. We appreciate what you do. We know that it can be a challenge to get on some of these sites. I just want to let you know that Trajecsys is pretty user-friendly, and we're always here to support you if we can in any way. And so hopefully this will be a nice option for you to complete student competencies, evaluations, and other tasks without having to keep these long paper trails. So with that being said, let's get started. To begin the process, you're going to want to log on to Trajecsys, which you can just enter trajecsys.com in your search bar, and it'll come right to this home page. Once you're on the home page, you'll want to go to the register button. And once you select that button, it will connect you to this registration page. And here you see an important component of the registration page is going to be this educational institution line. In that, you'll just want to start typing in Great Basin College. Once you get the first few letters in, it will pop up with all the different options at Great Basin College. And currently we have medical sonography, radiography, and nursing. So if you are working primarily with sonography students, you'd want to go into that, radiography, so on and so forth. Now, in the case if you are working with multiple students, some in the radiography program, some in the sonography program, which is completely acceptable, you would just register twice, once under each program, and then the system will merge your accounts together. And we'll show you in a couple slides how you'd be able to select which program you are working out of. Once you've entered your educational institution, then you're just going to fill out the rest of the demographics here. And once that is all complete, it will send me a notification that I need to go ahead and match you up with your clinical site within the system. Once I've completed that, then you should be ready to start utilizing the program. If for any reason I haven't accomplished that or I've missed something, please don't hesitate to let me know. If you don't have my email, you can always ask a student to email me, or I'll provide the email at the end of this tutorial. So let's say you've gone ahead and you've got registered for the program that you want to be associated with, and I have matched you up with that program in the system. The next time you go log on, you're going to see something like this. So you're going to have a home page. Now, there's a couple different types of permissions that we can provide. Most of you will be working out of the site employee permissions, which gives you the ability to complete student competencies. For our clinical instructors, or maybe there's going to be a couple clinical instructors at a particular site, we would provide them with supervisor permissions. And in that case, you would have the supervisor permissions would allow you to have this whole list over here in the left to allow you to do all these different activities. Now, I did mention that if you were to sign up for multiple accounts and it was to merge, you would end up having a drop-down list in the upper right corner where you would select which program you wanted to be working under. So if you're ever like wondering why you're seeing all the wrong students, it's usually here in this list. I have that same problem all the time. So you just want to go select your drop-down over here. Now, this particular page you're seeing right now would come up if I had selected documents. In this case, we have a document just describing direct and indirect supervision. We find that we can't remind technologists enough about the requirements of direct and indirect supervision. JCERT are accreditors for radiography, as well as KHEP are accreditors for sonography. Really want to ensure that we're passing along this information, that everybody's aware of what it needs to, how these policies need to be followed, and so we're providing you that information here. In the near future, we will also have our handbooks uploaded in this region, and you would be able to access those at any time that you wanted. And within those handbooks, it's important to note that we have a list of required competencies for both radiography or sonography programs in the handbook, and so you can access those at any time if your students have any questions or if you just want to provide them some direction or follow up on something. Now, sonography specifically in the handbook at the very end in the appendix, it will have a link to all of the different specific competency forms. So KHEP requires us to use a different competency form outlining the protocol for every individual exam. Those forms, again, are in the back of the handbook, so if you or a student ever wants to review those in paper form, they'd be available to you right here on this page. Now, the next option here that we see in the left is approved time records. Now, this is only going to show up for those with a supervisory permission. So we do ask, if you're comfortable with it and you are a supervisor or the clinical instructor at your site, that you go in about once a week and approve time records. Now, I can do this from my end. I'm happy to do it, but I feel like it is more accurate when it's done at the clinical level, because you actually see the students with your own eyes coming and going, and you have a better idea whether those logs are appropriate or not. Next is logs. So logs are going to be a list of all the examinations that the student has completed, and there's lots of different ways we can sort those, and we'll look at those in a few moments. Next on our list is comp evals. So this would be where you would actually enter competency forms. So whether you're a supervisor or a staff employee, you will have access to comp evals right here. A special note for all of our technologists: if you're a radiographer, you have to be ARRT registered in order to comp an exam. And if you're a sonographer, you have to be ARDMS or ARRT sonography registered to comp an exam, and you can only comp an exam that is within the area that you're credentialed. So if you have a GYN credential but no abdomen, you'd only be able to comp the GYN studies. Next, you see reports. Reports is going to show up just on our supervisor's page, and that will allow them to look at student logs, look at where they're at with their competencies, look at time reports, look at evaluation reports. Next up is sending email. You'll all have access to send emails. And then here, last item before logout is evaluations. And again, only the supervisor has approval or will have access to this button. Now, if the supervisor, the clinical instructor, has been really busy, out on sick leave, something like that, and somebody else has been doing a lot more work with the student, you feel they could give that student a better evaluation than you could, please let me know. We can change you back and forth from staff technologist to supervisor very easily, and so that can be accomplished with no hassle. Okay, so as I mentioned, we went to the documents page and we looked at that. Now we're going to look at, my arrow's in the wrong spot here, I apologize. Now we're going to look at approved time records. So here's what it's going to look like if you're a supervisor or a clinical instructor. You will see, and hit the approved time records, you will see this list. Now this, I don't have any student time in the system at this point, but what you will see is a clocking in, a clocking out, and it also includes an IP address from where they are clocking in and out. We do require our students to clock in at the clinical site, and this is to avoid any discrepancies that may come if, say, they were running late and they decided to clock in on their drive to clinical or something like that. We want to avoid any temptation to do that, so we require that the IP address listed on their clock-ins and outs is coming directly from the hospital that they're at. If you as a supervisor were fine with all of their time, it looked accurate, then you would just want to approve the selected, and it pushes it right through. If you felt like there was any discrepancy, or you had concerns, or you feel like the student's not clocking in on the IP address that we expect, then you would just want to let me know right away, and we'll address that together. Okay, logs, I mentioned, was another option that you would have as a supervisor. You can sort by student level, participation level, or even dates over here, and filter, and then bring up those logs. And this is a great way to compare. Is Sam and Sue, are they performing? They're about the same clinical hours. Are they performing the same number of exams? Or evaluating if maybe somebody's not getting enough OB, maybe we need to transfer them to a different location. Something like that. These logs are very helpful, and you can obviously print, download, PDFs or Excel. It also gives you teeth if you were to have concern about a student maybe not working as hard as they could. This is the data that helps us support having those discussions with students. Next on our list here is comp evals. So when you go to comp your eval, you would just select your site, select the student. The student must be regularly clocking in at your site in order for them to show up on your list here. And then you'd select their major study. So this could be something like if you're in sonography, this might be abdomen. And then for procedure, it would narrow it down to aorta and bring up that particular competency form for an aorta. In radiography, it's much more straightforward. It's just one competency for any exam that they're doing. So you won't see that variability in competency forms. So once you've filled this out and hit save, you can see here I'm selecting abdomen. Here I'm going to be more specific. Oh, pardon me, I selected equipment care, I guess. And then here's my options for equipment care. And if I wanted to evaluate or comp my student on preparing a transducer, then I would select this and it would take me then to the next screen. And I would fill out that next screen and it would be saved into the system as their competency. Now, those competencies along with time totals, skill summaries, which would actually be the competencies, evaluation summaries, and completed evaluation forms can all be accessed right here from reports. So our last button here before we get to log out is going to be evaluations. So by selecting our student clinical evaluation, you can assess the student, and we usually require you to do that at midterm and at final. And that will allow us to grade the student on their performance in a number of different skill sets that they are exhibiting. So you can only the evaluations that you're allowed to fill out are going to appear here. We do ask our students to remind their supervisor to review and complete their evaluation at least about a week in advance. So your students should be reminding you to do that. If not, we will let you know if we need one. So that is about it for our basic Trajecsys tutorial. Remember, you really can't do anything wrong here, so don't be afraid to get in there and push some buttons. If anything happens, you can let us know, and everything is basically correctable. So if I can be of help in any other way, please let me know. My email is RamyHuttman, as you see here, REME.Huttman, HUTTMAN, at gbcnv.edu. And again, we're always available for help if you need it. So thank you for hanging with us on this tutorial, and let us know if you need anything.